What is up, Packers fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Daily Draft. Today, we are continuing our 24/7 sports series, Packer Report. Me being the publisher of Packer Report, Ross Uglem. Packer Report, one of the very few remaining NFL sites on the 24/7 Sports Network, hosted by CBS. What is not few and far between are our college sites. They are the obviously the lifeblood, really what 24/7 Sports does. And today we have Michael Clark from Pack Pride covering NC State. Michael, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? How long you've been covering the Wolfpack? How long your kind of career has been with Pack Pride and just sort of covering football in general?
So let's go all the way back. Got started as a kind of a regional, kind of covering the state of North Carolina's recruiting back in, I think it was 2011. Did the regional stuff for 6-7 years and have been with the NC State team site, which is Pack Pride now for going on, I guess it's 7-8 years. So been in the covering recruiting and football for a long time now, 14, 15 years. Very fortunate to still be in this business and enjoy it. I've seen it all at this point, but I say that, and then I'll see something maybe tomorrow that I hadn't seen. So it's an interesting time and a wide open business to be in, from the prep recruiting to the transfer portal to college. It is a nonstop chaotic industry right now.
100%. And I think I shouldn't say part of that chaos, but an example of that chaos is Anthony Belton and how that's who we're here to talk about, of course, how he became to be a NC Stater. Anthony spending time, I believe, in junior college, played 4 full years at NC State. 24-year-old rookie, will turn 25 in February of his rookie season. How long have you known Anthony? Did you cover kind of his recruitment out of JUCO to NC State? What's sort of your relationship with him?
Yeah, I did. So picked up with him. There's Georgia, and he's actually from Florida. So both really talent-rich areas when it comes to recruiting. Was one of the better offensive linemen at the junior college level in his class. So covered him there. Got to NC State, covered him, and watched him for 4 years. And he is a kid that brings a lot to the table. I know we're going to talk to him about him in depth, but I think you're hoping, if you're the Green Bay Packers coaching staff, that you can get the best out of Anthony, because I think the best football is ahead of him. There's a lot of untapped potential, I think, with Anthony. You're getting an experienced guy. You mentioned the age, 24, so 25. I think he wants it. This is his opportunity, and it's all there for him. He's just got to make the most of it.
Absolutely. So, what kind of was the, I guess, the vibes around Anthony, speaking to his coaches? How did they kind of talk about him, your interactions? But we'll definitely get into the football side of things, but just and not every week that you talk to the tackles, right? So I don't know how much interaction necessarily you had with them, but just what was the kind of atmosphere around Anthony?
I think he was well respected throughout the program. I think the coaches thought very highly of him. I think there were times where was not in the best shape. I think that, to me, is probably the biggest question for him. Maintaining his weight, getting in a little bit better shape physically. And then, I think there's a lot of value with his pick, because he's not a guy, although he played strictly tackle at NC State, he has the profile to potentially play guards. That's really probably what I like the most about this pick. This is a guy that offers position versatility. Can play right tackle, can play left tackle. Probably maybe not right away at left tackle, but has the frame, 6'6", 6'7", but also kind of just the overall physicality or the frame, the stature to potentially slide inside. So what I mean by that is, if it doesn't work outside, you can move them inside. And that's typically, that's not always the case. Some guys are tackles and guards. I think Anthony, worst case scenario, you slide him inside. So again, you can't simply teach what he has. The 6'7", 6'6", 6'7" frame, 330, 340 pounds, had trimmed down towards the end of his, NC State career, but it kind of went back and forth. And I think that is the biggest thing. When you talk to people behind the scenes, and you have to think this is the next step in his football career. This is, his job now. Not to say it's not a job at the college level, because obviously things have changed in the past 3 or 4 years. But can he get some momentum early in his career? Maybe this lights a fire under him. Not saying he's not a competitor, but I do think that this is a potential home run. If it works out. I've been critical of him and the whole NC State offensive line over the past couple of years, but if this thing clicks, you're looking at a really, really, really good football player.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing, because I personally struggled with this pick. Brandon Thorne is a big time offensive line guy, and really that's his focus. He had a round 4 grade on Anthony. I had a round 4 grade on Anthony. And look, man, if you want to take a guy and he's your guy, you go get him. Like, these teams don't care about that kind of thing. When you say if it clicks, my first response to you would be, he is 24 years old. There are players 3 years younger than him getting drafted. He's spent 6 years in a college football system, whether it's JUCO or NC State. Why do you feel like, and I'm not trying to argue, I'm legitimately asking the question, why do you feel like there is more? Why do you feel like there's another track for this player to continue development, despite being, like I said, 2 or 3 years ahead of some of the guys getting drafted in similar positions?
Well, he got to NC State and, kind of redshirted, played very little that first year, and the conditioning was an issue. I think the conditioning continued to be an issue early in his career, year 1, year 2. Then it kind of went back and forth. And I think Garrett Tujay, the offensive line coach, who's produced a ton of offensive linemen, he got hired, took over, and really helped, I think, Anthony take the next step. But it just is a kind of back and forth thing, a mental thing with him. Now, this is your job. And again, I'm not being overly critical. He has got to physically get in better shape has to consistently be in better shape than he has been in the past. And, sometimes it just takes a change of scenery. He was not bad last year. I thought played fairly well. It just, again, there's a lot that goes into it. I think you probably know just as well as offensive line, particularly offensive tackle, is one of the hardest positions to evaluate. You see guys get drafted really high every year, and the bust rate is high. And again, I think with a kid like Anthony, the fact that I could see him playing inside and outside makes me feel a lot better at the pick. If you pick a guy like this in the second round and he can only play one position, then you're really hedging your bet or pushing your chips all on the table. So again, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I think there is some untapped potential. I think it's more of a mental thing with him, really dedicating himself and going all in. I've got to get myself in top-tier condition. I am a professional football player, because you can't teach his physical profile and his athleticism. Again, if he gets good coaching, continues to work on his stamina and, change his body a little bit. I mean, this guy, you're going to look back on it and say, wow, this is a really good pick, but it's kind of a high risk, high reward pick. I probably should say that. And maybe, is that the pick you probably want to do take in the second round? Maybe not. But again, all it takes is one team to fall in love with a guy. And I'm not saying he wouldn't have been picked in the second round otherwise. Who knows? He did do really well at the Senior Bowl. There was a lot of positive buzz on him after the season, kind of transformed his body even a little bit more. But knowing that he was coached by Garrett Tujay over the past 2 years, I think that really helped him develop, not just on the field, but kind of off the field, and really, continue to progress. Again, this is a thing. This is a situation where a guy goes in, he does what he needs to do, completely dedicated to his craft and just getting in the best shape and listening and doing all those things. I mean, he's going to be a good player. He's just got to be willing to do it. And I have no reason, because I think he's a great kid. I should say, not a kid anymore, but I think he's going to make the most of this chance.
That's good to hear. One question, whether you've talked to, maybe you haven't noticed this, or it hasn't been a point of conversation. If you talk to coaches, to your own eye as well, you think about a guy 6'6", playing college football at 340, 350 pounds, whatever he was playing at, your brain would go to, man, I bet he just moves people in the run game. Like, I bet he moves people in the run game. And both by my eye watching him on tape, and then certainly by Pro Football Focus's grading system, Anthony was a shutdown, absolute elite pass protector. And not that he had terrible run blocking grades, or not that I thought he run blocked poorly when watching him on film, but it's just not what he did. He did not road grade guys, right? So it's that's interesting to me. Did you ever ask a coach about that, or do you have any kind of take on why he's such a dancing bear pass protector, but not just cruising over dudes in the run game?
Well, I think sometimes that one thing I've always said, the difference between tackles and guards a lot of the time is the guards are the nastier guys inside. What I think is there's some potential to unlock there, if that makes sense. I think when you have as many coaching changes that he had, and you do as many different things, and you struggle with conditioning like he did. I mean, there were times in his career early, it was 375. That's way too big. And that alone affects your ability to do the things that you just described. It's more of a mindset too. When it comes to the NFL, you've got to have that in him. I think at this point, getting to a great franchise like the Packers and continuing to build upon what Garrett Tujague did with him, you will see more of that. I really believe that. I think if you go all the way back, you look at going to junior college, and this is not a shot. I don't think the coaching was great at that level where he was, and that's not. I just don't think it was, and that's not not unusual. I think that is that slowed his development a little bit on the field. So now you look at him and you say, okay, what do we have here? You still have a guy, I know this is crazy to say at 24 years old, that you feel like you can still somewhat mold into a player. That's typically unusual. But when you look at the route he took to NC State, you're really getting a guy that maybe on the field is not as experienced as maybe his, background suggests, if that makes sense. Because, he got to state, didn't play a lot the first year. Junior college missed a whole year because of COVID, really only played 1 year of junior college. So this is not a guy that has played 5-6 years. You got guys going to the NFL now, quarterbacks who started 60 games. That's not him. I think he played 40 games in his NC State career. Now, that's a lot. Started, I believe, 30-ish. So you're looking at basically a 2-year starter, give or take, if you're looking at today's metrics and today's numbers. So that's what makes me more optimistic about where this thing is going. And again, I think another thing, to close with him, to me, it's about fit when you get to the NFL. The situation you go into really kind of makes or breaks a lot of guys. I think the Packers, being one of the better franchises in the league, that's an ideal situation for him. You go somewhere with an established quarterback, a bunch of established weapons. To be that can kind of mask your early struggles if you are. Now, he can't go up there and just whiff play after play, and I don't think that will be the case. But again, while he's 24, there's still a lot there, if that makes sense.
I agree. And Green Bay, unless something bad happens, he's not going to play this year, this first year. And so that transition, maybe it's a little bit of body reshape you get with the strength and conditioning program at the NFL level, you get with a nutritionist at the NFL level, and really get him, maybe his best playing weight is 325. I don't know. I don't know. And
I would say 315 to 325.
Sure. Yeah. And so that could be it, but they have a starting left tackle, and B, a backup left tackle that was their first round pick last year, 2 starting guards, he will be their 7th offensive lineman if things, don't go downhill, which they can.
Sure. You're one injury away.
Absolutely. But good opportunity for him to kind of sit back and learn and things like that. So, all right, Michael, I'm going to let you go here with the last one. We wrap all these. Sometimes it's a tough question to answer, but it is a simple one. And that would be, what are Packers fans getting with Anthony Belton?
Well, I think you're getting a huge individual. First of all, it doesn't, you say the size and the weight and all that, and you just to stand beside the nickname Escalade, it fits him perfectly because he is a massive human being. I think he is a kid that is hungry to get better. I think he knows he has a tremendous opportunity in front of him. And like you just hinted on, I think this is an ideal situation for a kid like Anthony. He's 24. Okay, say he doesn't play a ton this year. He plays second year. He's still 25 years old. Guys are playing longer now. If you get 7, 8, 9 years out of a guy and he's really productive for you, then that's a really good pick. And I think that is probably, the best case scenario here. Could he play for a decade? Potentially. But, I'd also point out that it's not uncommon for offensive linemen to sit a year at this point. There's a big jump. I mean, you're facing guys in the ACC. Well, now you're going to the NFL. So it could either be baptism by fire, or that could potentially still happen if somebody gets hurt. Or you could go into a situation like this where you're potentially the third or fourth offensive tackle. You got some time to learn. And I think a big thing for all guys, learn how to be a pro. And he's going to have to learn that. I think from everything from the nutrition to the weight room to all the things down, there's so much untapped potential. And again, I know that sounds crazy for a 24-year-old, but the strides he's made physically in the past couple years and just the conditioning wise, due in large part to D'Antonio Burnett, who's a wonderful strength and conditioning coach, and Garrett Tucci, the offensive line coach, have been impressive. Again, now he just hasn't put it all together. If he was going to a bad organization, I would be like, oh, I don't know how this is going to end, but he's going to a stable organization, great coaching staff, bunch of players around him. I think this is going to could be a pick. You look back 2-3 years, like, wow, this was a really smart pick. Again, I think if this hits, you're looking at a potential guy who could be one of the better players at his position in the league 4 to 5 years from now.
All right, I appreciate that. Yeah, if I had a gun to my head, I would tell you that Anthony Belton is the starting right guard in 2026. That would be how I kind of see that playing out. And I think he'll get every chance to win at tackle, certainly. But, boy, the thought of him moving people inside at that size is pretty darn enticing. Michael, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you all for watching or listening. If you're on the podcast side, drink Badger State. Thank you for buying the draft guide, and go Pack Go.